Hello and welcome to Altitude, a show for youth and adults alike talking about STEM, science, technology, engineering, the arts, and mathematics. And welcome back. With me is Shonnah Hughes. Shonnah, how are you doing?
I'm good. How about you?
You're looking fantastic, might I say.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Welcome to the studios of SPNN.
I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah, I know you are, and the Altitude Show. So, Shonnah, we go back a little bit, but I've been very impressed with your career, everything that you've done for the community. And so we're here to talk to our students, to high school students mainly, about your career, your lifestyle, maybe an education path, or what it would take to be where you're at. So what do you do today? Tell us your title, where you work, who you work for, and all that good stuff.
So I'm going to tell you my title, but I'll explain it.
Okay.
So my title is the Global Product Growth and Innovation Evangelist at Get Feedback, a SurveyMonkey company. So that's a mouthful just to say that I am particularly like a tech influencer.
Okay.
I do that for a living now. So yeah.
That's a real job. You know, for a guy like me who grew up many, many years before you, you know, the whole role of the influencer is legit. I mean, it's a real thing. As long as you're good at it, though, right?
Exactly.
That's right.
You got to be good at it. You got to have those personal skills. You got to know what you're talking about. The caveat to it is really being able to adapt and learn new things on the fly.
Yeah, you have to stay current and stay relevant, right?
Exactly.
And do all those things that others will choose to follow you.
Exactly.
Right, absolutely. And so, what in terms of influencing, like, is there any advice that you can give to a young person that would be interested in becoming an influencer? Like, how did you decide that being an influencer is something that could actually earn an income and be relevant, right? And how do they get there?
Well, I didn't know.
That's a legitimate answer, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't even know that this was a possibility, that I can actually get paid for doing something that I naturally do and that I love doing. And it's amazing how opportunities just present themselves when you are open to it. You know, my path into the tech system was not traditional.
Okay.
You know, it was actually, I always say, accidental, because it started way back, I would say, in about 2002.
Okay.
Well, which is not way back for most people, but for me it is.
Well, to our audience, that's
that's
way back.
Right,
it could predate some of their birth dates, actually. It'd be,
right. So 2002, it was actually when I got my first start, I would say, in the tech ecosystem. At the time, I was just a trainer for a medical DME company. DME stands for Durable Medical Equipment.
Okay.
And I used to do all of their technical training for their staff. I didn't have that title. It's just something that I was good at. I was good at helping people and then breaking it down in layman's terms. So, so people really took to my personality and to me being able to train them and learn them, for them to learn how to really navigate a database. And when they decided to purchase one of the largest platforms that is available today. It's called Salesforce. A lot of people, you know, aren't familiar with the platform because they hear Salesforce and they're like, well, what does that have to do with anything that I'm doing? It's it's for sales, right? And no, it's just a name. It's actually a whole platform. They have their own proprietary coding language. So when I was introduced to it and was told, hey, would you like to learn how to use this platform and then distribute it to our 237 branches and 3 large COEs across the US? You know, those type of opportunities don't come up a lot.
No, they
and especially for someone like me who grew up on the north side of Minneapolis, who did not finish college, and who was also a teen mom. And at this time I had 2 kids. So it was an opportunity that I'm so happy that I wasn't afraid to really take.
Absolutely.
And
very courageous.
Yeah, my family supported me in doing so. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So knowing what you know today, what advice would you give to a high school student that might want to achieve either influencer or in that technical realm?
So one thing I would say, always be open to opportunity. Look for opportunities in everything that you do. It's really important to be open-minded and ready to accept kind of like a non-traditional path. And being willing to learn and adaptable. I think a lot of us that come from, you know, the hood or whatever you want to call it, and really it's just my neighborhood and where my people are.
That's where you grew up.
Exactly.
Just another neighborhood. When it comes down to it, it's still just another neighborhood, culturally specific.
Right. We are very hesitant as a people to really, especially if it's new, someone, you know, and your family doesn't know about it, you know, you don't know anybody that does it, it's kind of like, oh, I don't know, like I don't want to do it.
Right, or I'm fearful. We see that in the classroom, right? Like, oh, well, science isn't for me or math isn't for me. But if you put, for example, we have drones, so we put a drone in their hands, and then once you talk about either a robot or a drone, it's like, well, how does it fly? Well, there's this thing called materials engineering, and then, you know, you actually can inspire them. But then they see people like you that are actually doing it, have done it, and came in a non-traditional path. That's exactly why we exist here on the Altitude Show.
Exactly.
So, yeah. So any advice before we wrap up? Anything you want to say or any advice to our youth? Any additional advice you say to our youth?
Yeah, so I would always say, you know, reach for the stars. Like, don't hold back. You have a lot to offer. A lot of the youth that I speak with, they, you know, doubt what they have that's innate within them. Genetically, you're predisposed to be great, and just know that within yourself and make sure that you carry yourself in that manner and project that in every instance, and be willing to open yourself up to others is a big one, because, you know, you may find the most craziest allies in the most unexpected ways.
Absolutely.
So that's,
especially if you're willing to dive into that journey.
Exactly.
And be courageous like you have.
Exactly.
So,
So make sure that you do that, and everything will fall in line, and you'll have a great life. I guarantee it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for taking the time out of your busy day. We appreciate it, and we look forward to the influence that we're going to see in our social media feeds from going forward. So,
Sounds good.
take care.
Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome back, and we have a very special guest. So tell me, where do you work at?
I currently work at SPS Commerce as a consultant, and SPS Commerce is a retail supply chain company, so I do EDI work.
Okay. So SPS Commerce has been a big sponsor of many initiatives that we've been involved with outside of the Altitude Show with Minnesota State and National Consortium for Women in Technologies, and a lot of interns go into SPS Commerce. So what type of technologies do you actually use there? I know I've looked through your whole profile, it's quite impressive, but a full stack developer, front end developer?
So I am not actually doing that at SPS Commerce. I am
Okay.
currently enrolled at the University of Minnesota.
That's what I saw.
So I'm doing a full stack web development boot camp right now. So learning front and back end.
That's
So
right.
JavaScript, HTML, CSS, and then back end React.
Yeah. How did you get into this particular line of field?
So so I did a career change 360.
Really? Okay.
So I have my undergrad degree in family social science, so nothing to deal with tech. But I was also interested in the healthcare industry, so I
Okay.
kind of knew where I was going. Right out of undergrad, I went straight to my master's. So I have my master's in healthcare administration and human services from St. Mary's University of Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got a role at Marsh & McLennan Agency. I was a consultant there, workers' compensation consultant. I realized that job and that career was not a fit for me.
Mm-hmm.
So last year, I decided just to up and quit my job. So I quit my job, just to be honest, was unemployed for 6 months, just trying to find myself and figuring out what I wanted to do. And then I participated at York, with York. I don't know if you heard of York. They're a project manager training development course, training program that they do.
Okay.
So I did that, and then I landed a job at SPS Commerce as a consultant. So
Fantastic.
that's how I got into tech. My sister is also a project manager.
Okay.
She works at Braun Intertech, and she was the one that kind of led me to tech.
Spurred you on into
Spurred me
tech,
on there.
yeah.
So
That's
That-
amazing.
yeah.
So really, you hadn't even thought about going into tech when you first started your career.
no,
Interesting.
that was not an interest of mine. That was nothing that I was interested at all. I was more interested in the healthcare side of things. But I do still have an interest in healthcare. So my end goal with this whole boot camp is to get into product. So I do want to eventually get into product management, but more on the healthcare side of things. So healthcare product management.
Gotcha.
That's what I want to do. That's my goal.
And you know, a number of our students that we run into in the high schools, and I always think of Humboldt first because I see a lot of young ladies, when they pass our booth, they say, oh no, we don't want to deal with tech. And then I asked them, I said, well, if you don't want to deal with tech, how are you going to be a nurse of the future? Or how are you going to be a doctor of the future? Because isn't technology going to take over everything? Aren't we going to be able to do surgery? And they do it today in experimental cases, right? Where you can actually do surgery remotely through robotics, through very stable internet connections and whatnot. So tech has to be a very important part of every single industry. And so I applaud you for giving back, reaching back, and bringing that technology back into that space. And you would be a perfect role model to come and speak to some of the students that we have, because healthcare is so important. You know, it took me a while to realize how important health was, but that whole industry really also needs some retrofitting and some alignment to make sure that we're going down the right path as well.
Yep, and people don't understand. I think people think you got to be a doctor, you got to be a nurse, you got to be more in that professional field than being in tech. But I feel like now that I've been in tech and that I have a healthcare background and I do have a master's in a healthcare administration role, I do know that tech is our future. We need to make products and devices that we can use in the future, right? So that's why I've kind of transitioned back. I'm like, I know I want to be in healthcare still.
Right.
That's where my passion is. And I love being in the tech field, and I want to be in product management, product design, be able to be in that field and sit there and design these products so we can have a better healthcare system. And
So if you had
devices.
to turn back the pages of time, what would you give advice to like a 10th or 11th grader, knowing what you know today and knowing the passion that you have for what you originally were going after and then what you actually are pursuing now? How would you help them architect their next steps or next moves after high school?
So I have a sister that's actually graduating right now, senior year so she got accepted at St. Thomas, and she's trying to figure out, what am I gonna do? She's smart, she loves math. She wants to get into, she wants to be a doctor. But then she also is a Genesis intern at Target. Genesis Works.
Yep.
So she's in the tech industry right now, because I pushed her. I'm like, check it out. But it's like, oh, I don't want to do this. I don't understand. This stuff is just sitting at the desk. So I feel like giving kids more exposure when they're in high school will kind of help them get into the tech industry, or just create what they want to do. But not having any exposure and just going through high school and then going to undergrad and also not getting any exposure, you really don't know until you're in your career and you're experiencing that. So I think that's what kind of shaped me for where I'm at in my life right now. It's because I didn't have those experiences. It's what my mom was telling me, what I thought I was passionate in, but not having any exposure, not having enough internships. So I think being involved would be one thing I would tell kids to do, and just try to see what's out there, because there's more out there that we don't know. And even for myself, this year I went to Afrotech, and I had the opportunity to see different tech fields, different things that people are doing, sports tech. I'm like, oh, what's that? That's such a thing, but it's just being out there and having the exposure and getting the experience.
Oh yeah, and the industries that are evolving even today.
Yeah.
You know, with the Minnesota STEM partnership and even through Power Up IT, what we try to do is have the students exposed to advancing and emerging technologies, you know, virtual reality, artificial intelligence, but through the stimulus of robotics and drone racing and competitions like that. So I totally get it, and I applaud.
And
you
I
for
didn't
your
know
work.
that in high school, nor in undergrad, nor a year ago, what artificial intelligence was, until I got into tech now. So it's not knowing the unknown.
So to wrap up, what do you do for fun? Is there anything you do outside of all this tech work that you really enjoy doing?
So my passion, I'm a very creative person, so I love to draw.
Okay.
And also, I've been into the gym kind of thing, just more health and wellness. And that's my thing, it's just working out and drawing. So.
Yeah, it's definitely a thing. It works. So trust the process.
Yes, trusting it.
And to that point, we have a new program that just started called STEAM Fit. And so in the June episode, we'll have a person on to talk about that, but we might want to talk about that afterwards. And so at the end of this show, I thank you so much for coming. You have a wonderful day, and thank you for giving your time to the youth.
Thank you.
All right. Welcome back, and with me is Daze Davison. Daze, how are you doing today?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful, man. I'm doing wonderful.
That's awesome.
So, you know, we always have a lot of fun when we're doing the programs outside in the real world, but today we get to talk about you.
Oh, yeah?
And so we're going to cover your education, you know, what you do as a college graduate, and any fun things that you might do for hobbies on the side.
For sure.
So let's get started. So Daze, tell me about your education. Where did you go to school?
Yeah.
All that kind of stuff.
I went to a school called Full Sail University down in Florida, Orlando, and I did their accelerated program, so I got out a little bit early. But I went there for 3D arts, so that's 3D modeling, 3D animation, 3D, just anything 3D pretty much.
Anything 3D. So with that particular degree, what type of jobs what does that align you with? What types of jobs you do 3D? So 3D modeling, I still don't understand everything about it, but share a little bit with the type of job that you would get with a 3D modeling.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch. There's freelancing. You can just make models, characters or swords or weapons, stuff like that, environments, and then you can just freelance and sell those. Or
So those are the things that attach to like video gaming
Yes.
person. So like they pick up a chair,
Right.
you actually 3D model the chair,
Yeah.
and then that's an artifact. right?
Exactly.
That's what you're-
Yes.
okay.
So from that you can freelance that and sell your products there.
That's good money.
Yeah, it is. Or you can like join a studio, and you guys can make a certain product for certain games or stuff like that. Like if you have like a group of friends or anything like that, you could just do that. Or an official studio. You can do movies. Movies have a whole bunch of 3D aspects because everything's CGI and stuff like that. So that ties into that right away.
Wow. Yeah, because they were talking about where people on TV were or memes, right? They're talking about fake news, where they had like a video moving, but they actually were able to record the voice, a different voice, and then change the lip movement of the, I think it's CGI.
Yeah.
But is that also part of the realm of digital?
Yeah, because CGI is just a 3D object, so if a car explodes, it's not really exploding in real life. It's just a 3D car that's flipping over and doing all that type of stuff. So
yeah, that's tight.
Yeah.
But see, I'm older. I come from a different generation, so I'm not about that gaming life. So I'm still fascinated.
Right.
Yeah. I'm still fascinated.
Yeah, it's super dope.
Yeah. So in terms of gaming, I understand that you also are a gamer too.
Yes,
correct?
sir. Yes, sir.
Talk just a little bit about a recent experience that you had at an event.
Yeah. I went to this Mystic Lake competition for Tekken 7. It's a fighting game, kind of like a 3D fighting game.
And you won, right?
I almost did. Yeah, me, my brother Dallin, and my cousin Dante and Dakari, we all went, and that was our first competition. And I just finished a video on that actually because we have a YouTube channel as well. So I just finished my video on my experiences on that event itself. So
sure. Well, we'll need to make sure to get your YouTube channel link at the bottom of this video. So yeah.
Yeah, shout out. Yeah.
It'd be hilarious for those 18 and above that can watch and play Tekken, right? Or whatever.
I mean, yeah, our content is kid friendly as well,
Okay.
But,
very good.
Yeah,
very good. So we talked a little bit about your education and the career pathway. So what other types of work do you do? I mean, are you just doing heads down video graphics design and 3D modeling, or what other types of things do you do in that particular space?
Yeah. I also do photography. I'm also with the STEM partnership as well, so I do help.
Shout out.
Shout out a little bit. I help out with drones, drone education, drone racing, 3D development for kids and all that, web design, and robotics as well. So I help out with all that stuff.
Yeah, because last summer of 2019, you actually were the lead trainer for a 5-week program out of Minneapolis
Yes,
Park and
sir.
Rec over at Harrison on the north side.
That's correct.
Yeah, and they covered all those things. You did a fantastic job. One other area is, the target audience for this is high school students.
Yep.
And so many times we have an opportunity to share our gifts and talents with them. Have you had a chance to speak in any of the high schools?
Yes, I speak twice at Harding, and one at North. And those three experiences were super dope for me. Just speaking to the kids and kind of connecting with them is just a super experience that I kind of want to give back, and help out, the young ones at that age because, I'm 22 and I'm not that far from them. So hopefully they can see me as a goal that's not too high to reach. It's I'm doing all these things, but
Well, you're on a trajectory, you're on a great journey, and nobody, no matter what anybody tells you, it's not linear, right?
Right.
Just if you do X, you're going to get Y.
Right.
There is no true guarantee, but you can actually better prepare yourself by doing the things that you've done, getting that degree, even doing accelerated, right? Not putting in 4 years and coming out, but doing the accelerated program and actually learning on your own. Because what you were sharing earlier is a lot of self-taught, self-study.
Exactly.
And actually, one story that I recall vividly was when you were in one of the BDPA, Black Data Processing Associates classes to learn basic coding.
Yep.
You remember the story?
I do.
You already know, so I'm going to go ahead and tell it since I'm talking. But you were one of the first people, you're the first person to tell me that you didn't like coding.
Right.
And it broke my heart, right? To let me know that you didn't like coding in a coding program.
Right.
But look at you now doing ergonomic design and 3D modeling, so.
It all started with that. It's all that pathway from realizing that at that age, it put me on this path. So without that, I might not even be where I am, how I am right now. So, it's all thanks to that, honestly.
You'd be doing great things, but they might be slightly different. It
Right.
might be a little bit different trajectory.
Exactly.
And then getting back to the youth, in terms of any advice, if we run into a lot of kids that say that they're gamers, they want to do gaming.
Right.
Knowing that they're from Minnesota, knowing that they're here in the Twin Cities, what opportunities or what would you give them advice for them to pursue?
I would probably say, honestly, is don't be afraid to fail or apply yourself, right? So if you're afraid to apply yourself because you feel like you might fail or whatever, gaming-wise, competition-wise, anything like that, that's, you have to get over that. If you don't know until you try it, pretty much. So until you kind of get over that hurdle, I think that's my
That'd be your advice.
that would be my advice to anyone.
Yeah, and I want to leverage that because, we run across so many students that say they love gaming.
Right.
But that's why you do drones.
Right.
Right? Because at least from, 30 some years in IT, we see that the next skills that are coming out for either blue collar all the way to white collar are in this area where you can take your gaming skills and turn them into money.
Exactly.
Right?
Especially nowadays.
Especially nowadays.
Super
right?
crazy how
It's gonna
that works.
explode. And I really do hate using examples like pizza delivery and package delivery, although you can make a lot of money doing many of those jobs. But even as a stopgap, right, while you're going to school, while you're doing these other things, you can learn to take your video gaming and controller skills and learn to fly a drone.
Exactly.
And fly a drone, right?
Hand in hand.
It goes hand in hand. It's a great progression. And so we've been able to work with a number of different students doing drones. But the question to you is, do you see that leading to a pathway of like engineering? Can they learn more things?
They can. No, seriously, they really can. From drone control and all that, like you kind of learn like the ins and outs. I mean, you learn how it works, initially, and then you kind of, get into it from there. So yeah, I mean, definitely, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's a good trajectory because doing the drones in combination with your video gaming skills, you can lead to engineering degrees, right? So there's a national organization called NSBE, National Society for Black Engineers, and they have a bunch of volunteers, professional organization. But you can learn about materials engineering, structural engineering, all the different engineering degrees. And so we're hoping with our work together that we'll be able to guide them towards a traditional or even non-traditional path to go into engineering. And so that's a huge opportunity, I think, for a lot of the young students out there to really, say, hey, quit playing so many games. It's like, well, if you learn how to turn it into money,
then it's a different
besides
story.
Trying to win a tournament, right? But turn it into real tangible money.
It's a different story.
And I also understand that you also do robotics. So you've been a robotics trainer.
Yep.
You want to share name of your team or anything that happened here recently?
Yeah. Rondo Robotics, that was my team. And we recently just had like a banquet event. And that event was super dope. I mean, all around that night was just amazing. But yeah, I mean, shout out to Rondo Robotics and Del Mario, all of them. They were a great team.
Yeah, they were.
They were just a great team.
So the only one thing, and I know we have a lot of fun, but what were the names? What did they do about the names of each of the players?
Yeah.
So do you want to just share? We got to do something fun here.
Yeah, so we kind of all had like a nickname, from Del Mario being Shogun. We had Shogun, Twix, Sticks, Gucci Lights, and then I was the instructor, so they called me Calculations or Mr. Calculations because like I was always like technical with stuff, so I was always like, no, you gotta do it this way. It was like, oh, it's just super funny, but yeah, we all had fun with it.
Yeah. And Lisa, did Lisa get a name?
Oh, Lisa, oh no.
She didn't get a name. She's pretty straight laced, so she was.
Yeah, I don't think they gave her a name, honestly.
Well, we'll have to get her a name next year. So
Yeah,
we're looking
for sure,
forward to
for
you
sure.
being one of the trainers again, lead trainer for one of our 10 robotics teams in the spring. So as we wrap up, there's a couple of things. Anything that you want to share about your personal life? Because we kind of interwoven all the fun things that you do outside, but either about your personal life or any advice to any of the young students out there that might be interested in 3D gaming, design, or going to college in that particular career field.
Yeah, if I would give advice in 3D animation and 3D arts and stuff like that, I would definitely say to invest your time into it before you decide on anything. Like, actually invest like a good month of, let me just look into all the programs, let me look into how things work, let me invest in like Lynda and stuff like that, lynda.com, and let me just try it on my own before I like jump to something else. Because honestly, for art, right, you can't really teach art that well. I feel like it kind of just either comes to you or it kind of just doesn't, or you can kind of learn, kind of. So I kind of just say that like invest your time in it before you kind of go to like college and stuff like that with it, because like for Full Sail, they don't really like teach you how to really like manipulate and how to really like get you going. Like you kind of have to do it by yourself. Like even though it is college and all that, like they don't hold your hand through it at all. Like they just like, all right, you got to do 3 projects this month, and there you go. They teach you how to use the programs and stuff like that, but it's all up to you and your
You have to be motivated, right?
That too, yeah. But yeah, it's all about like your own drive and your own creation. You know, you can't really teach creation. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I would say.
Very good. That's great advice. Daze, thank you for being on this episode of Altitude. We appreciate it.
No problem.
Have a wonderful day.
You too.
All right.